Everybody, welcome back to Working Class Fishing. This is a very special episode. I'm your only host today, John. And this episode is brought to you by 317 Flies, Morris Fly Co., Max and Outfitters, Lid Rig, Angry Rooster Fly Company. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, and we'll come back around on the backside. It's been a little bit. This is someone's marking on the door over here. I think we're marking the height. This door over here to our left. I think you're right.
It sounds like a big mouse.
Yeah, we always marked our heights on that door, so you can go back from damn near 40 years and you can see people's heights on this door. But this is my dad.
Morning.
We're in Tennessee, as you can tell. This is not my usual backdrop. Been here for the holidays, and I just wanted to sit down selfishly for myself and record with my dad so I can go back and listen to this some dreary day when I'm missing him or something like that. So, but Dad,
Yeah.
what about you? How did you get started in fishing?
I got started in fishing when we lived in New Johnsonville, Tennessee, and there's a harbor that comes out of the main river channel, comes up there called Lucas Harbor. Big channel there. It was probably, I don't know, 100 yards wide, something like that. And I take my dad's bait caster down there and try to throw the thing. Which I spent more time trying to figure out why I had these bird nests and digging them out than I did fishing. And anyway, I'd go down there and mom would walk down there. We're probably a half mile from where we lived. And mom would walk down there and bring me something to eat. And I just stayed down there fishing all the time. That's all I did growing up. And then one day I was looking at I don't know, maybe Boy's Life or some fishing some magazine of some kind, and saw that there was a Mitchell 300 open face reel. I didn't know they made such a thing. All I know is I needed to have one of those. And when I did, my life changed. I could cast. It was great. I could cast at least halfway across that channel through there. And just stayed down there fishing. It was great. After that, there was at the end of the harbor, they had a lot of piers. They had like a big telephone pole coming up like 15 or 20 feet. And they had these 4x4s coming off of them, bracing them, holding the dock area in. Man, I could get up on those and I could cast anywhere. All those unreachable places suddenly became reachable. I caught a lot of bluegill.
So was that just like the pylons?
Yeah,
across there.
Yeah, they was actually just two big ones here. I actually used to. The handrails came down, and you could go from the handrails to the pylons, and then I could get on the pylons, and then I could throw over those places I couldn't, because you couldn't walk around the bank because it was all brushy and steep and all that stuff. You couldn't walk across that. And then all the boathouses were behind it. The big thing about this harbor was that we had, I call them willow flies. I think you call them a mayfly.
They're mayflies.
Mayflies, yeah. Well, we called them willow flies because there was a lot of weeping willows, a lot of just regular willow trees down in that whole area, and you could shake that tree and it was just boom, explosion of these willow flies everywhere. It was crazy. And I opened up a service station down there for a while, and after a willow fly hatch, I had to sweep up the parking lot, and they were like this deep, 6 feet around, just piles of these willow flies. It was a huge thing. And then when they were hatching, you could go down there with just about anything and throw it out there and catch fish. Yeah, some of the big bass were caught like that down there. I never caught a big bass, but a lot of people did. Yeah.
So you're a graduate of, is it Memphis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Memphis State.
Memphis State.
I went to T at Martin for a couple of years. And went to Memphis State after that. Yeah, I was dating this gal up there, and I went up, that buddy of mine that I knew. I was sleeping on his tile floor. I don't know what. I must have been in love. I don't know, but I was sleeping on this tile floor so that I could date her on the weekends. It was bad. It was bad sleep.
So you did some fishing in Savannah, though, also. Gray-haired Mimi. Did gray-haired Mimi always live in Savannah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I always did. Yeah, when we'd go up there to visit gray-haired Mimi, they lived in a little. It was crazy because there was this little creek, and the creeks were muddy looking there. I wasn't used to that because the banks are clay bank, and the creeks are not very wide. They're probably only 20 yards wide or something through there. But the house set just on the other side of this creek. I'll call it. I guess that's what it was. But anyway, it wasn't just what I used to. Anyway, it's set just on the other side of it in the bend of the creek. So there was this deep hole there. And we'd go down there and I'd want to fish. Well, of course, I didn't bring any fishing poles or anything like that. We packed clothes. That's what we packed. So I would go out and find me a cane pole or something growing on the side of the banks, and I would cut that pole. And then I'd go in and I'd get some, it was a strong kind of sewing. I guess it was a commercial sewing thread. And I'd find that from Mimi. And then I'd cut me a piece of that off and tie it onto this pole. And then I'd take and find a straight pin. And then I'd bend it in the shape of a hook. Because it had a head on it. So I'd tie the head onto that. And then I'd go grab a piece of bread out of the cupboard. And then I'd go down there and wad up a little dough balls, what we always call it. I'd put it on there and I'd go down there and fish that bend where it was deep. And I'd catch fish. Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was fun.
So what is your most memorable fish you've ever caught?
I think the most memorable fish was a paddlefish. That sucker was, I forget, I measured him. I think he was like 52 inches long. But we were up in the back of, what was that creek? What's that creek called down there? Willette, going down that area and back of there. I forget the name of the creek. Anyway, we were back up in this creek, way back up in this creek. And they were a lot of minnows out there. So I had a little number 5 shad wrap, and I was throwing it up the channel of this creek and pulling it down. And I hung into something. I didn't know what I had. It was bigger than anything I'd ever caught back there. And fought this fish for like 15 minutes and finally saw what it was. And I was with Uncle Hilton, Uncle Hilton was very competitive. He was not happy that I was catching a big fish and he wasn't. So I'm pulling this thing to the boat and I'm saying, well, get a net, help me get this in. He's your fish, you just get him, So finally I got this fish up there and I pulled him up and he was tall as I was, basically, he was huge. And took pictures of that fish. I still don't know where those pictures
I know. I had a picture laying beside that fish on the carport.
Yeah.
You had pulled Mom's van out. I think it was Nissan.
Probably.
Silver Nissan van.
Yeah.
You guys had pulled that out, laid that fish down on the carport, and it was taller than me, but I was also shorter than you at the time.
At the time, yeah. Not anymore. Your head taller than I am now. It actually shows right there. I don't know what I fed you growing up, but it must have been good stuff. Excuse me.
So you taught me how to fish. So I wouldn't be on this fishing podcast for everyone here if it wasn't for this man right here.
Yeah, well, he was a natural. It was crazy. We were out camping one time, and we had some of the cousins and in-laws and all that down there, and he was probably 6, maybe, and his cousin was probably 5, something like this. And he came running up from the banks of the creek. We were all sitting around the camp. He came running up from the banks of the creek and ran over to the boat. And he says, I'm going down there. I'm going to catch me a smallmouth bass. And he climbed in the boat and got him a cricket out. ran down the bank, threw out, and caught a smallmouth bass. I mean, it was crazy. And he said, "Look, I got a smallmouth bass." And he did. He had a smallmouth bass, and we'd be out fishing. I remember this really well. We were out fishing. We were fishing this bank. We weren't doing any good. And he looked at me and said, "There's a bass right there. Just throw right there." I threw right there, and there's bass right there. I mean, it was good to have along.
You know, we've had so many awesome trips. We went fishing when it was so cold. It would just chill you to the bone.
Yeah, I've been fishing when the ramp was icing up. And I wasn't sure we were going to get off of it. Well, what are we going to do? We can't get off of this thing.
So Uncle Tim was your fishing partner.
Yeah.
He was your partner in
Yeah.
crime, best friend.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
So do you have any stories about you and Tim fishing that you?
Tim, the thing about Tim, the thing I decided after I actually started learning that it's not always about how many or how big the fish were. It was about the relationships that you build fishing, you know. And Tim and I would go fish and we'd talk. We just enjoy each other. And one of the weirdest things though is I had another Shad Rap. It was an orange one. I don't know why I was throwing orange, but anyway, I was throwing an orange Shad Rap along this bank and I overcast. It got hung up maybe 15, 20 feet in this limb over the top. And he spent a half an hour getting that bait down for me. I mean, it's just what we did. You know, it's $5 bait. We got to get this thing down. That's expensive. So, but he did that. And he was a great guy. He was a local doctor and best friend. And I remember we had an ice storm in '92. And I mean, I went out that night and it was like a shotgun was going off. You know, you hear these huge cracks and booms, and it was these oak limbs. We had a bunch of oak trees out front, still do, but they was these huge oak limbs, and they were just snapping off and falling from all the way to this ice. And of course, we live in a very wooded area, wooded lot. And I woke up the next morning and I look out down my driveway, and our driveway's, what do you think it is, 60, 70 yards?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, something like that. And I look up the driveway, and this guy was in my driveway at 7 o'clock in the morning, cutting the trees out of my driveway so I could get out. I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. He was just great. He's just a great guy. Fun to fish with. I remember we were out fishing one day with him, and we were actually we were up in that same creek where I caught that paddlefish. And no, we wasn't. I'm sorry. That's just wrong. We were down in Hartsville, in that part of the river down there. Anyway, the phone rings. He picks up his cell phone. He's talking to him, and he gives all this doctor jargon. It was just crazy. Somebody was really sick, and they were having these delusions, and you know, and he went. I mean, it was amazing to me and how brilliant this guy actually was fishing with me, you know, because doctor, I mean, he was just so smart. And he got off the phone and says, "Yeah, sometimes when people get old, they just think the weirdest things." I mean, she was thinking somebody was after her in the bed in there. I'm going, okay, you know. So I gave her some medicine. I guess she was okay.
I remember one of the times we were fishing Cordell Hall, and it was the only time I've really been scared on the water.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that. That was not too smart of me.
But that rain kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, the sad part about that is I could see the rain. I knew it was coming. I just thought we could get where we were going before it came.
Yeah.
You know, and I really wasn't worried about it because, I mean, we fished in the ice and the snow and the rain, whatever, but, you know, but it hit and it came in with a vengeance. It was, I mean, I could tell you were scared. We pulled up on the banks a while and it kind of subsided somewhat. And then we drove on back, and I wouldn't do that to you again, but she freaked out a little bit on that one. It was kind of scary. Waves, because you never get really big waves down there. You know, on the Tennessee River where I was raised, you couldn't use the boat that we got. That little it won't what, because the waves are like 2 or 3 foot high all the time. It'll get up white capping on you. But you know, we just came on back and came home. But it was pretty sketchy that day. It was pretty sketchy.
Do you remember? It would have been probably 2015. I was going through chemo, and we were back in that pocket by the graveyard.
Oh yeah.
And I hooked something, and it ended up being that giant ass turtle. You remember that?
You were going on about this prehistoric creature. It was a huge. Was it a big snapping turtle?
It was a giant snapping, like no joke.
It was big as a garbage can.
It was.
It was a huge turtle. You pulled on that thing for 15, 20 minutes, and you thought, oh, it's a monster. It's a prehistoric creature. Look at this.
It had moss growing on the back of it.
He was old. That sucker had to be 400 years old.
It was a very old snapping turtle. And it's probably in like 6 foot of water, if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah.
Let's see, we call it hybrid stripers.
Oh yeah, you remember the time over we went to God, I can't remember.
Barren River?
Barren River.
Yeah.
It was Barren River. It was a cold, windy day.
We were trolling plugs,
and we finally hit them in that one strip. We caught a bunch of stripes.
We did. And they were huge.
They were. It was great.
That was 2005.
Was it?
That was 2005.
Okay. I just remember the event. Remember the dates, but it was great.
18, I would have been 12. Yeah, that was 2005. Yeah.
Oh, that's where we took all the pictures of them out front. All that fish there. Yeah. Yeah, we did really good.
Yeah,
we did good.
We did good.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of good fishing trips.
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
It's been
fun.
Yeah, recently, I'd say recently, probably what, six months ago, we went fishing in Kentucky. That was fun. The bank just looked, there was so much vegetation growing up, aquatic vegetation growing up on the edges of the bank, that it just looked like grass. It looked like it was part of the bank. I think everybody but Dad stepped in that grass and took a plunge in the river.
Well, you're gonna get old being no fool. That's just the way that works. Y'all caught a lot of fish that day.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, you caught a lot of fish. Yeah. I got tired. It got nearly dark, and you guys were still wading the creek. I said, I'm going up this hill. It was steep getting down there, and I'm thinking, I'm going back up the hill. I'm going to sit here. I wasn't doing too good.
We've caught, I couldn't even begin just together how many panfish we've caught together.
Easy. Thousands.
Thousands and thousands.
Easy. Yeah. And the only trouble we had is trying to get your mama to keep them 4 inches long. I had to set a size limit on panfish, if you can believe it, because she'd have kept a minute size. She's like my grandmother. That was when I'd go fishing down there at Lucas Harbor I was telling you about. I would take it over to, and you didn't know her. She had passed before you came along a long time ago. Well, her name was Aunt Elsie, because Aunt Elsie and Uncle Hurley actually raised Dad, but she was the grandma at the time.
Yeah. And
they lived beside us. They moved down to New Johnsonville, lived right beside us, I guess, so they could take care of them. And anyway, I could go down there at that Lucas Harbor and catch bluegill that were that long. She loved them. She'd cook and clean every one of them I brought to her. She loved fish better than anybody. She was the one that she was making cookies one day. I'll never forget this one. This is bad. Making cookies, and she had all that dough stirred up. So I want to taste. So she gave me some. Oh, that's good. Let me have some more. She says, you're going to make yourself sick. You know what? That old woman was right. So I made myself so sick I couldn't understand. I threw up for days. Anyway, she loved fish. Gosh, she loved fish. She'd throw them in one of those old, what what am I trying to say? Ceramic, I guess it is old, some the old farm style ceramic sink. She'd put a stopper in it and throw them in there. You know, she'd pull them out. She loved fish, so me and her got along just fine. She cooked a lot of good cookies, and I liked to fish, and she liked fish to eat, so we were buddies.
What was the rule on the boat? You always keep the first fish as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
Unless it's what we called a sun perch. That's what we used to call them, a sun perch. But I think it's actually a red-breasted sunfish is what it is.
Yeah.
But we couldn't.
It's easier to say sun perch.
It's easier to say sun perch, but we couldn't keep those because my sister said they were too pretty. So,
yeah, she'd fuss about that.
Yeah.
No. You don't remember the time that we were up at Barron River in some cove up there in Uncle Hilton's pontoon boat, and we were all fishing, and Rachel decided she wanted to fish some.
I've heard the story.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. So she had one of those little rod. We had a little rod on the boat, so we took the little rod and she threw it in finally, and she caught a fish, and she reeled it up and looked at it. She said, "Yep, there's how you catch them." She just threw the rod and all right in the river. We go, "Whoa, what?" We never did do that thing. It was a deep cove. We never did get that.
That was Scotty's rod too.
Oh, I hadn't forgot that.
Yeah, it was Scotty's. It was brand new.
Oh yeah. She didn't care. She caught the fish. That was the whole objective right there, is catch the fish. So
she never really enjoyed. She said she didn't enjoy fishing, but it's. I think it's very impossible to not enjoy. Fishing.
She enjoyed fishing. She wanted me to take her and a friend of hers. I don't remember who it was.
Probably Brittany.
Anyway, so I took them fishing. Went to that bluegill hole up in on that little cove, and I was helping Brittany because Brittany never fished.
Yeah.
She got so jealous. She was mad. She fussed. You were helping her the whole time. I'm going, well, yeah. I didn't catch as many fish as she did. I'm going, I can't help that, honey. I got to take it just you. So she did like to fish. She just kind of hid it. She just didn't want to act like she liked to fish. Yeah. She was upset about that.
She used to like it when I'd make noises baiting the worms on her hook. Yeah, I used to make the worms scream in agony as I was baiting them on the. I was a sick kid.
You remember that big rockfish that we got that time when we went camping? We were going out fishing, try to catch some dinner. That was our goal. We're going to go camping. We're going to catch the dinner. You remember this? And we went out. We came out of the little boat ramp area out into the Defeated Creek.
Out in the channel.
Out in the channel of Defeated Creek, and we're cruising up through there, and we looked over in the water, and it was as long as this table. This what is that? 4 foot long.
Yeah.
There was a rockfish that was stunned. Evidently somebody had hit it with a boat or something. He was just flopping around there stunned. So we took him in, and that was we just quit fishing. So, this will work. We took him over. You remember that?
Yeah, it was huge.
It was a huge fish.
A giant fish. And that's a striped bass. I think so. I think so. I think we call them rockfish, but I think they're striped bass.
Yeah.
But giant fish.
It was a giant fish. Fed everybody there.
It did.
It fed like 20 people.
It did.
That's as bad as Bogle. Mike Bogle got out with his dad, and they were on a camp out, and they started catching some fish, and they didn't have enough to feed all of them. And he caught a big drum, it was a big buffalo.
But buffalo's good, though.
Yeah, well, he he cooked him up, and ate him. Says, "You can't eat that." I said, "Yeah, you watch. We're gonna eat it. They'll never know the difference," and they didn't.
No, buffalo's pretty good. I've got a guy at work that swears by grass carp and buffalo.
Yeah.
He says they're some of the best eating fish you can have.
They've got a lot of bone in them, though.
They've got bone in them, but
you can cook them down.
Well, I think you can cut around the ribs on buffalo because they are bony, but they're so big also.
Okay. What is that? Carp and catfish. What is that video guy? That guy out of Alaska.
Talking about the catfish and carp guy?
Yeah, catfish and carp guy. He had somebody prepare one for him, but it was a long process. A long process. They boiled it and cut it, and
that's Luke. His name's Luke.
Okay. Yeah.
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 Yeah. He's actually some of our buddies here in Tennessee. Some of our podcast buddies. They go to like the catfishing convention and bottom fishing convention and stuff, like in I think it's in Chattanooga.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think it is now that you've said that.
And Chris is the guy I'm talking about. Chris got a picture with Luke. Luke is a giant man.
Is he?
Yeah, like you always see him with his wife and his kids, and you're like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. He's bigger. No, like he's big. He's no kidding, like easily like 6'6". Wow. Like he's big.
Wow.
He's a big guy.
He's a monster guy.
Yeah,
he's great. I mean, he does it all, and it's just natural to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I watched of him, he was out camping in 2 foot of snow, and he said, "I think I got the flu. I think the kids have got it, but it's gonna be okay." And he took off. Oh, wow, dude, you're tough or stupid. One, I don't know which, but couldn't do that. But yeah, he's enjoyable watch.
Let's see, it was 2019. I came back from Afghanistan. I came down here because my car shit out on me, and you and Mama said, "Hey, take our old one," and I did. But we went fishing, of course, because you can't. you just can't go somewhere and not fish. So we went fishing, and that's when I was making soft plastics. And I remember you caught 2 bass. Literally, like we had just got out to this riprap bank up in the creek. We were like 5 minutes off the boat launch, and you smoked 2 bass on this number 5 Rapala, and it's with the green back and the white belly. It's like little baby bass color. Just letting y'all know, he can't keep his secrets to the grave. All right, that is that one and the black and white one.
They're pretty. And if the water's muddy, go for the orange.
Yeah,
you can't beat a shad wrap on that river.
You can't.
It's just amazing.
You can't beat a shad wrap anywhere. And like the original Rapala or Rapala, however you say it.
Yeah.
Floating minnow, those golden ones. Trout destroy those.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Trout are meat eaters. Everyone. I say everyone. There's a lot of folks that just don't understand that. I think trout just eat bugs, and I fish streamers, of course, that. But it's like that little golden floating minnow. Trout will not leave it alone. There's something about that gold and silver and white.
They like that gold color.
Yeah, they like big gold.
The gold. Yeah. Go for the gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I bet you could troll big plugs on the Caney below the locks, or not the locks, but below the dam. I bet you could troll plugs there.
I'm sure you could.
And I bet
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I bet you could catch like 4 or 5 pound browns down there if you really wanted to.
We caught a brown. That's what I was about to say. Down there below the dam, below the bridge. Even a little further down, you can see it when you're driving into Carthage. On the right, there's a leg. That leg, right in that leg, we caught a brown. He was just long. They didn't have any license to do it, but we caught him, starting to loose. But they're there. Yeah. You know where the bridge is, where the channel comes into the dam?
I mean, you can see it off the highway.
Yeah, you can see it off that's where that state record sauger was caught.
Really?
Yeah, that's where it was caught, right in that feed. Yeah, there's brush so thick and so deep down in there, though it's so hard to fish.
Well, it's probably a really good spot because that brush probably provides a lot of cover for those predators. And then you've got that anytime you got converging water and it creates that seam, that's really good too.
Yeah. That's where Bogle caught that huge rockfish he is, or striper, whatever you want to call him. Yeah. That was crazy day. We went all the way up to the dam, and we caught us a skipjack about, I don't know, 1.5 feet long, and That's the only one we caught. And he tied him on. We threw him down there. We started floating. And he, I'll never forget this picture. We had that old tri-hull boat. And he was holding his rod and he jerked on his rod and says, I hope I'm not hung up. I hope that's a fish, And then he kept reeling and says, yeah, it's a fish. It's a fish. And he jumped up on the back, straddling the motor, standing there doing this fish. And he reeled and reeled and reeled and he says, it went slack. I lost this fish. And I looked over about 10 foot from the boat and it just floated up. This huge fish just floats up. So there he is. He reels him in. He took him by the bank. His wife worked over at the bank. He went through the drive-through, and the bank said, "Look what I got! Look what I got!" He was proud of his fish. I think he mounted that one. There's a big fish. So I ate a 1.5 foot long skipjack. So yeah, he's a big fish.
Skipjacks are fun to catch too.
Oh yeah, I love catching those. Down there at the
marina.
No, not at the marina. I was thinking about the steam plant.
I've never been to the steam plant. I've never been to Gallatin Steam Plant.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Because they generate that water all the time.
Yeah,
and there's a canal coming out from to the main channel. You get up in the end of that where you can catch skipjack all day long. You catch 2 at a time and nearly can't get them in the boat because they're so feisty, They're crazy.
Yeah,
Tennessee tarpon.
Yeah, I was about to say Tennessee tarpon. Skipjack herring, which is they fight crazy. I want to get into some on the fly rod.
Oh, you'd love it.
It'd be fun.
That's where to go. Yeah, we should go.
We should do that sometime.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, because that's the place. And Lloyd gets down there and he catch huge catfish and the stripers down there. He's got it down pat right in that same area.
Well, I'd imagine that the stripers are eating all those. I mean, they're discharging there, like you said,
all the time. Yeah,
it's probably pushing a lot of bait through there. It's probably easy feed.
Yeah, probably so. But that's a good place. So Tim and I went down there one night. We were fishing. It got kind of dusky dark. I looked up the river and I said, Tim, it's getting kind of foggy. We might ought to head back. He said, yeah, I think we should do that. So we took off. We were so lost. It was so thick. We had no idea where we were, And finally, I looked way off in the distance and there was just one light I could see going. And I'm going, Tim, I think that's the ramp. Head toward that spot right there. So we eased over and it was the ramp. We got out. We'd have been there all night long. It was so thick. That's like the night me and Bogle were up in Caney Fork. We were up there and it did the same thing. It started getting dark and foggy. And we started out and he got up on the bow of the boat, and I said, okay, I'm going to run the river. You just tell me if you sink. Because up in Caney Fork, they got those huge logs.
Yeah.
It's just there. The stuff's everywhere. And I'm just buzzing up through that creek, So well, he's watching for me. And he all here and said, you know what? I said, no, what? He said, I can't see nothing. I said, okay, well, let's go a little slower. I can't see nothing. Ooh, this is not good. We're a long way from home. Things you do, crazy stuff.
It's been Tennessee's been a wealth of fishing. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of great memories.
Yeah, Dad loved to fish growing up. He was on the Pickwick when it was new. They could go down, they catch so many fish, big fish, just huge cat. I took him back down there, I don't know, it's many years ago. Go back to his favorite fishing hole. I never saw such a broken-hearted man in my life because we got out of the car and we walked over there and it was just a gully. There was nothing there anymore, just eroded away and everything. He was very upset about that. That like crushed his soul, Going, oh, man, I'm sorry, I didn't, but it wasn't there anymore. But that was just his favorite fishing hole. It was gone, and it was not good.
That sadly that happens.
Yeah, it does. Things are never the same.
No,
never the same. One of the things the same as Cordell. It stays pretty much consistent.
Yeah, it's the Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea. Yep, you got to know how to fish it, or it's a Dead Sea for sure.
It's challenging though. it's kind of hard to pattern, honestly.
Well, yeah, because there's no thermocline. It's just all the same all the time.
Pretty much. Well, in the summer,
No thermocline.
yeah, but it couldn't be, 80-degree water temp on the top all the way down to 110 foot.
It's never 80 degrees on the top, son. It's always cold. It just gets colder.
That's true. And it's so deep out by the dam,
Oh, I
too.
know.
There's got to be giant fish.
Oh,
there.
I think the world record catfish could come out of there easy.
I
do.
I honestly believe that.
Yeah, I do. People don't fish for the biggest fish, Well, you'd have to use a 5-pound fish to catch one of them.
I bet you wouldn't know.
Yeah. Ralph Dallas fishes he says the world record, he said this years ago, and he's fished it a lot down there. The world record rockfish was going to come out of Cordell Hall.
Yeah.
I've seen him down there fishing before. There's big fish in that reservoir. They're not easy to catch.
No, they're not. I think it's because they get so much pressure.
I
And
don't know.
well, it's not only that too. They did that kill off of all the hydrilla,
yeah.
but that was like a decade ago.
I know, but
still,
they
it
never
takes.
recovered.
It never.
They never recovered from that for
No.
years and years. I remember we were over there in front of Woodard's store, that little, that point right there. I forget who was. It wasn't you, I don't think. Anyway, we were in a boat, just fishing that shallow. It's only 2 or 3 feet deep in there. And those big shad got up in there schooling, and the rockfish got to circling the boat, just eating these fish. And you could see them. They were huge fish. I threw everything in my tackle box and never caught a fish. Not a strike, not a hit. And I could have thrown my net out there and caught more.
Yeah.
They're there. And they're voracious. I remember being up next to the dam. I think you might have been with me that night. I was up at the dam, and it was quiet glass river, and I saw this skipjack come out of the water and literally skipped across the water.
And then the
rockfish got him.
Yeah.
Whoosh, got him. I said, okay.
Came right after the skipjack. It was so quiet.
I
was there that night.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. That was a phenomenal scene. I can still see that so clear, to see this huge skipjack just getting out of the water as fast as he could, and didn't do him any good. He was gone.
And then the white bass fishing there.
Oh, it's great, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't been in years, but it used to be awesome.
Yeah. Get up around those little islands or back up in the creek back in there.
Yeah, it seemed like anywhere that it came off the channel and started to shallow out seemed like to be where they would hang out. I don't know if the channel pushes a lot of water that you don't really see, because up top we don't get a lot of that. It moves you a little bit. But I've always kind of wondered if the deeper you get in the channel, the more current you have.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just those islands, though, like you're saying, there's those 2 islands, and there's a huge point. And I fished the point and I never got anything. But you can fish around the islands at the right time of year. A striper holding right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And they're fun. You can catch 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah, they're so much fun.
Yeah. Your mama loves fishing striper. She loves that.
She loves fishing bluegill too.
Oh gosh.
She wind burns them, and
that's because they're so little.
And she doesn't set the hook. She reels. So you always have to get your finger in there and pop the hook out of there, because it hooks them deep. Because when you don't set the hook and you just reel, it keeps it back here where they're eating. So
she's incorrigible. You'll never teach her any better.
Yeah, but she gets them.
She does get them. You give her a bucket of water to put them in and a can of worms and set her on a bank, and she'll sit there all day long. Catch fish.
And she'll love every minute of it.
Every minute. She will love every minute of it.
Crickets. I didn't realize, when I finally actually moved into Texas, it was like, I guess that would have been 2019. No, it would have been 21, 20, 18, been 21, I think. 21 when I actually got there back from Afghanistan. But when I first moved there in 2019, I went fishing, and everyone, they're always fishing worms and stuff, and I was like, why don't we go get the tube of crickets? And he was like, why would we fish? I said, because crickets are the best bait there is.
Yeah, really.
And we caught catfish, and we caught catfish and trout and panfish and bass. We caught all these fish on crickets, and it just blew his mind. He's like, I did not know that you could catch all these on crickets.
Yeah.
But that's like all we fished was crickets and worms.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier fishing that way.
Yeah, it's
And
enjoyable when you catch fish.
And it's visual. Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to cast well. It's not pinpoint accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
You just find your depth, you find your bait, and you find the fish.
And get somewhere close, and they'll come to it.
Yeah.
It's great fun.
Yeah,
it's great family fun. It is.
And it's a good way to get table fare too.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, a good sized you can fillet a bluegill.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't do Linda size, 2 inches long, you fillet them out and then make a little fillet at least this big, sometimes this big, and they're delicious. They fry up so great.
Yeah,
they're so tender.
It's a really tender, clean meat.
It is. Of course, you got to wash them good. That's one thing people don't understand about bluegills. They say bluegills, they're just trash. Some of them think it's just trash. They're too little for. But if you wash them and clean them up, they're awesome. There's nothing better. There's nothing better.
So, but we're getting close to having to wrap this up, right? But I want to ask you, what is the best way to wash your fish? And I'm asking this, right, because my dad, and I swear by this. This isn't me blowing smoke up nobody's ass here. This is very real. This man can wash fish to where it doesn't taste like fish. There's no fishy. It tastes like fish, but it's not a fishy flavor. It's just a really tender, clean meat. And there's a lot of folks that don't know that exists, but it's good. So how did you
figure this one out?
Yeah, how'd you figure that out?
Yeah, because before I filleted fish when I was younger, and I'd bring in the whole bluegill. Yeah. And then I'd try to cook it. What we did then was we'd scrape the scales off of them, and we'd just cook them whole, just flip them. And I noticed one time I was getting the scales off, and I felt the skin, and it was slimy. That can't be good. So I started washing the slime off of them, and I'm thinking, well, that's better. That's a lot better. But then when I started filleting them, and there's really no big secret to it. You just wash them. Once you get your fillet done, I take them in my hands. I do it 2 times. I run the water through it, and then I rub them through my hands. And if you've missed any little bones or anything, then you'll feel it. You can get them out. And I do that till they're not slimy feeling. You can tell when you get them. It's just good, clean meat. And then throw those in the pot, and then do the others. That's basically it. It may take some pieces. You've got to stay in that water for a while to get them where they're not, they've got it's not really slime on the inside meat, but it's
kind of like this viscous layer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and you can feel it, and you just rinse that off and just keep doing it until it's rinsed off, and then you're good to go at that point.
So I've got to where I can clean fish to where it doesn't taste fishy, but I can't store them where they're not salty. I haven't figured that one out.
How much salt do you put in?
Clearly too much.
It doesn't take a lot. Maybe, in a quart, maybe a teaspoon of salt. Maybe up to a tablespoon, but I always rinse them again. Yeah. When you get them out and they're thawed out, do the same process. I do the same process again, just rinse all that off of it. Okay. Yeah, you can get it off that way, and they won't be salty. Of course, you might be putting too much in your batter.
My batter's not bad. I think I really think I was putting, because I just kind of like, I turn the Mortons up and I just kind of do this, and it's way more than you just described. So
okay.
Yeah.
I don't shake that much Mortons in it.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't take a lot, it doesn't take that much. In a little quart thing, but, it works.
Well, Dad, thanks for sitting down and talking with me.
Yeah, you're my boy. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
You man. My upgrade.
Well, everybody, thanks for listening and just for all the support and everything. And my dad doesn't have any social medias or anything like that, so I'll just have to let him know what you think of the episode. Just thanks so much for everything, and to all of our sponsors. That's Max and Outfitters, 317 Flies, Lid Rig, Angry Rooster Fly Company, and Morris Fly Co. And just everybody, thanks so much. It really means a ton. And until next time, eat your vegetables, and we'll see you. And now we're actually done.